Hey everybody, thanks for being with us. Tens of millions of Americans are taking to the skies and the roadways to get home for the holidays, and air travel is expected to be the busiest of the whole year tomorrow. So we want to check in with our David Curley, who is at Dulles Airport outside of D.C. for the very latest on this holiday travel rush.
It is the Christmas holiday rush. We are on the tarmac here where the airlines, we're with United today, are keeping very busy. This is an aircraft that's going to be headed to Atlanta in just a little bit, and they just started to bring the bags up. This is the busiest time for this holiday season, today and tomorrow. Thursday, a little less than 3 million, getting very close to 3 million travelers tomorrow, Friday, who will be heading home for the holidays. Now, TSA has to deal with this volume as well as the airlines, and TSA tells us they've added officers to try and make sure that everybody gets through security and they don't have the long lines. And the airlines have added 150,000 seats. Got some more bags coming over here. They do that. They add the seats by making sure that aircraft that may be scheduled for maintenance either get the maintenance before the holiday season or put it off until right after the holiday season so that they can get everybody on these aircraft and get them to where they want to go. Now, there is a storm coming for the East Coast. You've heard it. It hit the West Coast earlier this week. The airlines tell us they believe they can handle everything that this storm throws at them. It's expected to be rain. Rain's not a problem. I can tell you the airlines were really worried it was going to be snow. But at this point, everything looks like it's smooth going for those who are flying over the next couple of days. I'm David Curley at Dulles International Airport in Virginia.
Okay, David warned us. We've all heard those other warnings about that storm that is pushing across the country. Let's get the very latest on the forecast from Ginger. Hey, Ginger.
Emily, thank you. Let's go ahead and talk about the storm that will be definitely obstructing people as they try to get out and around just before the holiday weekend. So it all starts with part of a system that went through Colorado. Interstate 70 was shut down for a time, and you see up to 8 inches of snow, and it was really wind gusts that were close to 100 miles per hour. Keystone actually had to close down some of their lifts for a time. Looking at the other part where the storm originated, just a reminder that they had that tornado in Port Orchard, Washington. That's an EF2. That's what they saw. The survey says now. EF2 tornado, the strongest they've had in that state since 1986. So there's a lot of power in this, is my point. And as it moves with another system from the south, there's another chance for severe storms. That includes a possibility of tornadoes anywhere from Wilmington and eastern South Carolina. Really an enhanced risk there in central Florida. So Orlando's in it, Brandon, Florida, Lakeland, Kissimmee, and then Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Naples, Tampa all could see damaging wind too. If that's not enough for you, it's going to come with really heavy rains. So it's through today that you're going to see the flash flood potential in parts of Florida, Georgia. As it moves into the mid-Atlantic later this afternoon and evening, then into the northeast, you could even see a little bit of freezing rain on the very northern edge of it in interior New England. But most of it is going to end up being rain, which is good as far as flights are concerned, because if it was snow, this would be a shutdown, but up to 3 inches of rain will happen. And just to leave you with something a little lighter, something nice for your weekend, Santa's getting it in before he's got a Christmas, because it's really important to get your skiing done. Emily?
We love that, a little winter wonderland for Santa. Okay, thanks a lot, Ginger. So we've got weather to deal with, but over in London in the UK, they're dealing with some major problems at airports because of drones. Officials at London's Gatwick Airport had to shut down flights and cancel them 2 different times overnight. And we have our Julia McFarlane there at the airport for us. Thanks for being with us, Julia. Can you explain what happened here? Kind of scary.
Emily, this is absolutely extraordinary. There has not been any kind of disruption on the scale to do with drones seen in the UK. Now, what happened was last night, Wednesday night, around 9 o'clock, 2 drones were spotted near the runway. Gatwick is, of course, the UK's second biggest airport. It's only got 1 runway, though. So the airport was shut down and it was briefly reopened at around 3 a.m., but another drone was spotted. So they had to shut it down. And we're just outside the main departures terminal. And as you can see, just have a look at this. Look, all the flights, they've all either been diverted, cancelled or delayed. Now, At the moment, officials say the officials are saying that they expect delays until around 7 o'clock this evening. Now, nothing has taken off, and they're saying 7 o'clock because they hope to have caught the drones by then. But of course, that's anyone's guess, because police have told us that they are really finding it difficult to try and find these drones and find the operators. They have said that every time they get close to a drone, it disappears, and every time they're preparing to reopen the runway, reopen the airport, a drone comes up again. So they say that this is a malicious, deliberate attempt to disrupt the runway. So here we are. I mean, this is an international story. We've got media from around the world, from Europe, from the US, colleagues from the US, from Asia and European stations, because of course Gatwick is an international airport, and of course this is just 5 days before Christmas. Now 110,000 people were scheduled to fly out of Gatwick today on 760 flights. Everything's been cancelled because of this disruption. We can't actually take you inside to the main terminal yet, but I've just come inside to see what the scene was, and there are just thousands of people, families, young children, pregnant women, disabled passengers sitting on the floor. They've obviously been there for a really long time, and of course no one is going anywhere until these drones are found.
Julia, here in the U.S. at least, patients can really run low during this holiday travel rush. What are people telling you about? Are they handling it okay? You mentioned people sitting on the floor, but really are they just stranded there until they can get those flights off the ground?
I mean, airport security, airport staff, the people who manage the airport here, the flight operators, they can't do anything because the runway is closed, because these drones keep being spotted flying over there, and there are 20 units of police. Now we learn that the Ministry of Defense have said that the army is going to be drafted to try and help the police forces to provide some kind of assistance if they can. Now they say that they cannot shoot down the drones because they are afraid of stray bullets. That's the answer that they've given us. So they haven't given much details of how they are trying to sort of apprehend these devices. But if you go inside, I mean, there's just thousands of people there, and all the check-in desks are empty. There's no one at the check-in desk because no one's going anywhere because the airport is shut down until these drones are found. They haven't found the drones yet. Every time they get close to one, it disappears, and every time they think, okay, maybe we can reopen the airport, a drone gets spotted again. It's incredible, this operation. It's been going on for, you know, if it gets to later this evening, it will be a whole day since this happened, since the drones were first spotted last night.
Wow, Julia McFarland, thank you so much. And you think about all those hundreds of flights that just continue to get pushed back. We appreciate it. What a travel mess there. Let's get back to your top stories out of Washington. Overnight, lawmakers putting the final touches on a deal that would avert a government shutdown. They have come to a temporary situation that would sort of kick the can down the road. However, the big question now, will President Trump get on board and sign that? He tweeted about the issue this morning. Here's the tweet saying, "I was promised the wall by the end of the year. Well, it didn't happen. We foolishly fight for our border security for other countries, but not for our beloved USA. That is not good." Let's get to Mary Bruce first of all to explain the very latest on how the lawmakers got to this point.
Hey, Emily. Yeah, with less than 48 hours to go up here, Capitol Hill is now acting on a short-term fix. Overnight, desperate to avoid a shutdown, the Senate passed a plan to keep the government open, but just until early February, and it does not include any funding for the president's wall. That's a big blow to Trump, who had been demanding that any deal here include $5 billion for his wall. And now we're seeing some on the right criticizing the president for retreating. Rush Limbaugh says the president, quote, got less than nothing in this deal, and Fox News says the president lost. Here on the Hill, there are some members on the right who are trying to convince the president not to sign on to this, and that is the big question now. Will the president get on board? The White House says the president is now willing to consider this short-term solution, but he has not yet committed to signing this. And the political reality up here, though, is that there is very little appetite, even from the president's own party, to fund a border wall right now. And with Democrats about to take control over in the House, the chances of the president getting billions of dollars for his wall are about to get even more unlikely. Emily.
All right, our thanks to Mary Bruce on Capitol Hill, and the president even facing pressure. Some of his critics in his base saying you can't go soft on the border now. You have to stick to your guns there. So we're waiting to see how that plays out. But in the midst of all of this, a huge surprise announcement from President Trump at the White House, and already he is facing major backlash for his decision to withdraw troops from Syria. So let's get to our Karen Travers, who is on the North Lawn for us. Hello to you, Karen. Thanks for joining us here. So even the president's own military and foreign policy experts are saying, hold on, you might think this threat in Syria is over, but not so fast?
The president announcing that he wants to take U.S. troops out of Syria, Emily, was not surprising. This is something he has been signaling for some time. He talked about this back in March and April and wanted to do it then, but was convinced to wait. Now the president, by making this sudden announcement yesterday, is really facing scathing criticism from members of his own party. Allies, staunch allies of the president, say that this is the bad move and it's not the right timing to do this. The president yesterday declared on Twitter that ISIS is defeated. But Emily, that stands in contrast with some statements from senior members of his administration, including the top administration official on ISIS, Brett McGurk, who just last week said that nobody is declaring mission accomplished. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dunford, he also said that this is not done yet, that there is still a stabilizing that needs to be done. So the president, though, forcefully defending his decision. Here's what he had to say in a video that he released last night on Twitter.
We've beaten them, and we've beaten them badly. We've taken back the land, and now it's time for our troops to come back home. So our boys, our young women, our men, they're all coming back, and they're coming back now. We won, and that's the way we want it.
The president this morning on Twitter, Emily, was quoting lawmakers who were agreeing with his decision. Senators Rand Paul and Mike Lee, who said that the president made the right move, and they were happy to see that he was declaring victory in Syria. But then you have senators like Lindsey Graham and Marco Rubio, especially Graham, who sticks by the president. Emily, he said a very sharp, pointed criticism that certainly would get the president's attention. He called this an Obama-like move. If you want the president to look at something, if you want to get a message to him, compare him to his predecessor. That will certainly get his ear.
Yes, fascinating to see how we see Senator Graham especially likes to send these little messages to the president, it seems, through the press. So we'll be watching that. But Karen, we have people on the right, on the left, some people in his own administration saying maybe this isn't the right move, but it seems like it's a done deal, that it is moving forward.
Within 30 days, all 2,000 U.S. service members are expected to be out of Syria. And military officials said that this would be done in a professional and deliberate way. But that's the way it's looking. And the president on Twitter this morning, once again, standing his ground on this, saying he signaled he was going to do this, and now he's following through.
All right, Karen Travers, thank you so much. Always breaking it down for us, and we appreciate it. So she mentioned that the president does have a few Republican supporters of this plan for Syria. Well, he has another supporter of the idea on the other side of the world, and that would be the one and only Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia. There he is. He's come out now and said that he likes the idea of pulling those U.S. troops out of Syria. And today, though, is also a big day there in Moscow for President Putin. It is the annual end of the year press conference, a huge event, and our Ian panel is there. He was at the press conference, and we want to go to him now to get an explanation, first of all, of President Putin's comments on Syria. Ian?
Yeah, hi there, Emily. It was a very long press conference. President Putin touched on a very wide-ranging number of subjects. One of them was even a question about whether he's going to get remarried or not, but there were much more serious topics about the domestic economy, about jobs, about specific situations in certain parts of the country. But we also got onto international affairs, as you said, particularly on the question of Syria. And President Putin was asked for his reaction to the announcement by President Trump, and this is what he had to say.
I do generally agree with the President of the United States. We've achieved some major advances when it comes to defeating the terrorists, and we have struck major blows at terrorists in Syria. There is a danger that those terrorist groups might now infiltrate the neighboring regions, for example, Afghanistan and other countries. And also to other countries, for example, their countries of origin. And this poses a great risk for all of us, including Russia and the US, Europe, for Asian countries and the Central Asian countries.
Well, I think crucially, President Trump has tweeted saying that he didn't think that Russia or Iran or Syria would be happy with the decision to withdraw US troops. Now, President Putin didn't say per se that he was happy, but he certainly didn't say that he was unhappy. He indicated it was reasonable for US troops to withdraw. He felt that we were now in the process of dealing with a political settlement in Syria and that it didn't need US troops to be part of that. We have to wait and see, because President Putin was also very clear that he said that the US had talked about drawing down troops or pulling out of Afghanistan for years, and they hadn't done that either. So it was very much a kind of wait and see, but generally welcoming of the decision by President Trump.
All right, Ian, and one more question before we let you go, because I have to say it looks so cold where you are, so we want to get you back inside. But going back to this press conference in general, can we talk for a minute about just how unusual it is? There are people with signs, people dressed up. I've never done either of those things at a press conference. Can you give us some background on what this is and what people do?
Yeah, you're right, Emily. I have to say, when the call came through to go to this press conference, I was super excited, partly because of that. I mean, look at it. You know, it's a stunning backdrop, an incredible city, and the press conference itself is a spectacle. It's an annual press conference that the president holds. This was his 14th press conference. Like I say, went on for 4 hours. How do you get the president's attention? Well, I have to say your ABC correspondent tried his hardest, as did the team here, leaping up, waving a big ABC sign, saying, Mr. President, ABC News.
There it is.
Sadly, that didn't work, but some people were dressed up in traditional costume. We interviewed one woman wearing a traditional, like, winter outfit, this beautiful kind of blue and fur outfit. Someone was wearing an ice hockey mask. People deliberately chose some icons on the signs that they were waving, things that might attract the president's attention. Someone had a pair of skis. Someone wrote KGB kids. And that just got the president's attention. It's like, what has that got to do with it? So there's a lot of pressure on the journalists, ourselves included, to try and get that all-important question. But it's the president that decides. His press officer sits beside him, and he has a list of people that he thinks the president would want to call upon. But you could see that President Putin really enjoys that moment. He's I've been to press conferences with President Trump before. The atmosphere is very different. It's much more, although people are jumping up and down, President Putin is a very kind of calm and confident performer in that sense. He knows exactly who he wants to call on. It's very unlikely that he's going to be caught out. But as a spectacle, it is a fascinating thing to witness, and also because you get to see that.
Absolutely. All right, Ian, maybe next time you can wear a T-shirt with Putin on it or a pretty blue dress, something like that. Maybe that'll be a little bit better luck for you.
I'll get you one for Christmas.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And we hope you get inside and get warm as soon as possible. Thanks to Ian Panel there in Russia. And back here at home now in New York, Harvey Weinstein was in court today. There he is. This time he's trying to get some of the charges, those criminal charges against him, thrown out. Of course, dozens of women have accused Weinstein of sexual misconduct, including rape. Our Lindsay Davis outside the courthouse there. Lindsay, thanks for joining us. Can you walk us through what happened today?
Sure. You know, Emily, it was a very brief hearing, and in the end, the judge determining that the case against Harvey Weinstein not only can move forward, but will move forward, and that was very much to the relief of the handful of actresses and leaders of the Time's Up movement who were inside the court to hear that. I mean, many people had already discussed about this would have been a monumental blow, not only to the roughly 80 Weinstein accusers who have come forward, but also to the Me Too movement at large. Now, initially, Weinstein faced 6 counts stemming from 3 women, including rape and criminal sexual act charges. But one of those charges had since been dropped, related to accusations made by actress Lucia Evans following emails that suggested inconsistencies in her testimony. Weinstein's attorney, Benjamin Brafman, then argued that her perjured testimony contaminated the grand jury proceedings, and he called for the remaining 5 counts on the indictment to be dropped. He had also suggested that he can provide proof of friendly communication between Weinstein and the remaining 2 accusers that took place after the alleged assaults, but victim advocates have suggested that that would not in any way disprove the allegations against Weinstein. And in the end today, the judge ruling that he essentially agreed with that, saying that he does not dismiss the indictment. Of course, Weinstein has maintained all along that he has not had any non-consensual sexual encounters. Emily.
Okay, so then what happens if he didn't go the way he wanted it today? What happens next for Weinstein, Lindsay?
So Weinstein will be back in the courthouse right behind me March 7th for a pretrial hearing. He didn't have any particular reaction when the judge made his ruling today. You know, I think he probably was expecting that the case would go forward, but his attorney Braffman was saying that while he is very disappointed, that he is very confident that he will be exonerated at trial.
All right, our Lindsay Davis outside the courthouse there in New York. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. And that's going to be it for us today on the Debrief. Have to remind you to tune in later on today for the briefing room that is coming up at 3:30 Eastern, and then World News Prime at 8 o'clock. And of course, be sure to download the ABC News app. You might need it with all this crazy holiday travel going on. And if you are hitting the road or heading to the airport, of course, we wish you safe travels. I'm Emily Rao for ABC News Live, and we hope to see you right back here tomorrow.